Ja, men se, god morgon höll jag på att säga. Nu ska jag ta och kolla här och se så att allting fungerar. Ta jättegärna och skriv någonting i chatten, för nu kör vi live här. Och jag kommer snart byta över till engelska för att det här är tänkt att vara på engelska, den här presentationen. Ska vi se här. Det är alltid lika spännande när man tar och så kör. Se här. Perfekt. Då, där och sen. Där. Och jag ser mig själv. Det är alltid spännande när man tar och kör så här och har någon form av extra skärm för att se så att man verkligen är live. Det är inte helt säkert att man är det. Eh, men nu alldeles strax här så tar vi och byter över till engelska, och ta jättegärna och skriv i kommentarerna om ni ser mig och hör mig bra. Well, okay. So now let's start this live session about commercial excellence and how to create tailored customer engagement with the use of generative AI. And today I'm going to show you a couple of use cases when it comes to how I have used generative AI. But we're also going to have a look at, I'm going to create something in real time for you a little bit later on in this session. So stay tuned. Please write where you're joining us from, and we can start this presentation. So I'm going to share my screen. And we have, hopefully, I'm going to just verify that I'm sharing my screen. All right. So the thing I feel when I've been out, like attending international congresses, is that there is a sort of a sub discussion ongoing about how to reclaim the narrative. Because if we imagine that a lot of the things being said online and overall about us and our products aren't really said by us, because we need to stick to what's within the brand. There's so much being created and talked about, and we need to reclaim the narrative and talk about things that matters on the therapy area above the brand level. And with generative AI, we can do that. And if we just consider where we sort of are, and what we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about why customer segmentation fails to support tailored customer engagement, especially on a digital level. And we're going to talk about the huge difference between sales communication and marketing communication, and then semantics and its role in digital transformation, and then exact process used to generate impactful content marketing with AI. And just, I wrote this in the description as well, but this presentation is roughly the exact same presentation I presented in Vienna. And so what you can get is basically this presentation without going to Vienna, which I feel might be a good thing, right? So first of all, when it comes to reading, when it comes to learning, when it comes to getting a lot of knowledge, I mean, YouTube is my go-to place right now. And if you write that you're interested, I can send you a list of the YouTube channels that I watch almost every day, or at least one video per channel every day. And now it sounded like something happened with the sound. Can you please confirm that that's not the case? See if I can. Doing this by myself is always interesting. But all right, so right, if you're interested in getting the list of YouTube channels, but I mean, to get to this point, there's been a lot of reading, a lot of books, and I always say that these are some of the most influential books that I've read throughout the years, and it always has to do with content marketing. It always has to do with tailored customer engagement, and all has to do with putting the customer first, being very customer centric and focused on delivering value. And the summarized message when it comes to all of these books is that digital transformation concerns us all, either if we're working with it directly or indirectly. But then also that good communication are alive and based on insights. The customer must be the focal point for all initiatives, and finally, be curious, like your professional lives. Your professional life depends on it. And especially now, I was attending Breakit's, which is a tech newspaper, media outlet kind of company that arranged a full day focus on AI. And on the stage was a guy who had he had a selfie with NVIDIA's CEO. So I guess he's a big deal, right? NVIDIA is the stock that is raising all our what do you call it, like funds? No, that's not the English word. But anyway, so what he said was basically that today generative AI can be seen as a competitive advantage, something that, if utilized, can increase your output, your efficiency within the organization, not just in terms of commercial communication, but overall, right? So, but we are working with GPT-4 Turbo, and OpenAI just updated and put out a new model like less than a week ago, and it happens over time that they do that, right? It's GPT-4 Turbo with a date up until which GPT-4 sort of knows the knowledge piece of this, and they did that just a few days ago. But that is what we're working with now. And Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, he's basically said that, well, GPT is not that good. It's not that smart. It's kind of dumb, in all honesty. But there are parts or bits and pieces where it can be really, really good. Brainstorming is one. And overall, it is a competitive advantage if used correctly. And I have this sort of speaking setup where I speak at companies, just showing them live with tabs, not slides like this, but with tabs, showing them how you prompt AI, how you can generate images with AI, and all of that. Tomorrow morning, I actually plan to do a session 8:30 tomorrow morning, no, 9:30, sorry, 9:30 tomorrow morning, where I plan to go through like 20 AI tools that are very cool for content generation. So see if you are available at 9:30 tomorrow. I'm going to put out a live stream session for that after this session. But so GPT-4 is what we're playing with now, GPT-4 Turbo. End of this year, and this is from the Break It's AI Day. End of this year, GPT-5 will be launched, and that is, of course, just rumors. But what will happen is basically that the competitive advantages that we are getting from generative AI today will be basically balanced out. Like, okay, so today we're using generative AI. When GPT-5, which will be much, much smarter, is launched, companies that are using AI will be level with each other, and the companies that don't use AI will disappear. Because what they're doing is basically the same thing that they've done between GPT-2 and 3 and 3 and 4, is that they have increased the power of the compute power with 100 times. so 100x. And if you remember the difference between GPT-3 and 4, there's a huge difference. And you will see something similar, but I would guess that it will be completely amazing in terms of how smart and intuitive and, you know, the reasoning and all of that. So be curious, like a professional life depends on it. And yeah, right, if you want to get the list of good YouTube channels to follow with this. And we can just conclude that, I mean, the world is changing. It always has, it always will, and it is exciting. And I just have to keep this image because this girl down to the right, we don't really know what she's feeling, but I bet she is both excited and a little bit afraid of what's happening, right? And if we imagine that COVID-19 hit us, our world, early 2020, and how profoundly that changed the way we work for a time. Now we're back at some kind of normal, right? But it's still like we have 3 days in the office, 2 days working from home, because everybody could see that we can actually be quite efficient even working from home, right? I once said that I think COVID-19 will be sort of the foreplay for how generative AI will change how we work, how it will change how we walk or act to our everyday work life and even on our personal life. Which means that, and this is a very important point for all leaders out there, semantics. When I say GPT-4 Turbo, what does that mean? Or Claude 3, or image generation with generative AI, or video or music generation with generative AI. What does that mean, and how can that be done? How do we sort of navigate that? And we can just go back to words like outbound marketing or inbound marketing. I mean, marketing that is either from our office looking out, or we in our office doing our homework, trying to attract our customer, versus content marketing, which is basically the same thing, or multi-channel marketing. What does that really mean? What is the definition of multi-channel marketing, or the best one ever, which is omni-channel marketing? What does these words mean? If not just mean in a sense that we need to understand them, what does it mean when we work together? What kind of processes do we follow? What are the steps in those processes? How do we perceive different words? You can also look at customer satisfaction, customer experience, or customer engagement. Same thing here. I mean, customer satisfaction is a satisfied customer, right? Customer experience can either be bad or good. And then one time I heard someone say that, well, customer engagement can be both good and bad, because you can have a very engaged, super angry customer that didn't have, zero customer satisfaction and a really poor or really bad customer experience. Super engaged, very engaged, talking about your company all over the place. But you can also have customer engagement, which is very positive. Someone who is happy about interactions with the customer. 100 score at customer satisfaction, a very good customer experience. So semantics, oh, that's just semantics. It really isn't. And this is highlighted in different conferences that I've attended, like get the semantics right, get people to have the same understanding of words, the same, at least foundational knowledge base to lean on. So if we then consider, like, we're talking customer segmentation, and we are talking about tailored customer engagement. The first thing to understand is that there is a huge difference between the sales segmentation of customers and the sales communication and the marketing and marketing communication, because first of all, there's a big difference in how the work is done. I mean, sales have often shorter timelines, shorter like set goals, while marketeers often work with longer like time horizons, campaigns that run for longer. And while a sales individual are like fine with having a segmented customer group, let's say there's 5 customer segments and they work within their region for 5 years, they can most often like segment their customers in a fairly good way, because what they then do, I mean, what they do is that they are every day tailoring their their communication to their customer, right? In the meeting, in the personal meeting, they are talking, they are getting questions, they are interpreting body language, facial expressions, all of that. So that they can quite easily tailor the delivery of a message to their audience, which means that segments aren't that super important. But then we have the marketing department, which is working from a completely different perspective, like from the office, not seeing the customer. Everything that is created is sent out digitally or by postal mailings, and what is on the printed or digital format is what is presented. So with that, and if we have, and we all do, I would assume, have like, we want to provide value and be relevant over time. Not just once, but over time, continue to create value. And what this means is that for that over time piece to fall into place, customer segments aren't enough, because they leave too much room for personal interpretation of what that segment description really means in terms of a real person. So if we move into Viva and just conclude that for marketing, for commercial communication that aren't delivered in person, but via other channels, segments aren't enough. And we look at the Viva setup and what we're asking. And this is something that I notice is like a big issue for a lot of companies, like getting the salespeople to put in data into the CRM system. And I just want to highlight that I worked as a sales rep for many years. I started out when I was 17, and I can't count how many times I've been asked to segment customers and put in data into the CRM system. And when I worked as a sales rep, it was always the question, what's in it for me? I mean, I don't get anything back from this. But segmentation was at least something that I did, of course. I had to, it was in my goals and objectives, right? So I was measured on it. But then we have in Viva, for instance, or in others, in other CRM systems as well, something that is called channel preferences. That is also something that, well, sales reps are the best ones to provide this information. You can, of course, segment channel preferences based on data points that you have. But overall, I mean, like, do they interact with your emails? Are they attending your webinars? Are they visiting your physical events? Are they, how are customers interacting? And as things are, reported into the CRM system, there are data points that you can use to segment on channel preferences. But then we are getting to the sort of tailored customer engagement, and there we have content preferences. What topics are of interest? What do we need to show this customer in order to be relevant and provide value? And as most of this other communication that aren't delivered personally are created by marketeers who's working in the office, who don't have access to the customers in the sense that the sales reps are, this information needs to be in the CRM system. And now, I mean, with generative AI, I'm going to show in a short while how you can generate really good, impactful communication. And that means that like the content production is more efficient, it becomes cheaper, it becomes faster, it becomes just better overall. But also what it does is it like superpowers all the strategies that you currently have, which potentially can mean that if you aren't aligned on your customer segments and here I can use either personas or ICP, like ideal customer profile, ICP. I think ICP would actually work better because I've sensed that personas has gotten a pretty bad rep the last 2-3 years or something like that. But if you don't have your ICPs in place, your personas in place, if you don't have a solid, like this is what we're going to talk about, and you put generative AI on a fairly good, fairly content or communication strategy, putting superpowers on that is then not just good. It could potentially be kind of bad because you can be all over the place fast, right? So how do you get to the point where, well, we have a feeling that we have our communication strategy in place. We know exactly how we talk to each segment, and each segment aren't just described by the segment description. It's actually fleshed out so that we pick a persona type within a segment. Let's say we have cautiously progressive. I mean, they are progressive, but they need a little bit more proof to be like in the place where they feel like they can begin to prescribe or increase prescription or use your product more. They just need a little bit more proof. Super good segment for digital communication, right? And how do we then make sure that we have this customer segment in a good place? Well, first of all, let's just say that customers, marketeers are no longer solely responsible for good marketing or commercial communication. They aren't, because to get to this point where you have all this potentially relevant communication that are there and available over time, you must have all colleagues, input from all your colleagues that are customer facing in one way or another. So that means sales need to be highly involved, super important. Then medical needs to be involved to provide all the scientific evidence, all the scientific material that could then fill up the needs, the gaps in a communication strategy. Then you have, I guess, market access, probably, all communicating, customer-facing colleagues in an organization needs to, in one way or another, pitch into this. So it becomes a very much cross-departmental collaborative effort. Because, we have Gen X, Gen Z, and shared meaning is when a company expresses goals. This is us, this is what we do, this is why I, Frederick, are doing this. All of that companies like Fjällräven or Patagonia or Apple or I would guess SpaceX and Elon Musk, you either hate him or love him. They have sort of their vision and mission statements very clear, and they are communicating those. And when the younger generations feel like I can relate to that, I can feel that that is something that I agree on, something that is called shared meaning, which is actually like a communication tactic today, comes into play, becomes more important. And as I said, it's more important for the younger generations as a group as it is. So I've talked about personas or ICPs, ideal customer profiles, and I'm going to stick with personas because that is my own word for it, right? So what is it? Well, it's your ideal desired customer. And we talked about cautiously progressive being a segment. So what you do to sort of marry the commercial communication done by sales and the commercial communication done by marketing, where we had this huge difference in like what we the what do you say the way the how they work. Okay. Perfect to do this in English, right? But anyways, so it's basically semi-fictional representation based on real data, educated guesses, and in-depth interviews about where they are, how they act, what motivates them, and how they take decisions in relation to your offerings. That is something that means basically that sales needs to be there to pitch in. Okay, we have a cautiously progressive customer segment, and the three of us sales reps in our country here, we have thought about this, and we believe that, well, this is a doctor who works at and then describes the clinic. This doctor in relation to our product, things like this, does this, have questions about this, knows this, doesn't know this, wants to know, so on and so forth. This is the questions we get all the time from this type of customer profile, this person. And that goes into describing this persona. And I mean, why do we need personas? Why don't we just use descriptions of the target market? Well, because it's hard to speak to sales segments. And if I were to talk about this now, and then all of a sudden I were to talk about football, and then all of a sudden I was going to talk about my dog, if I had one, and then I was going to talk about. So what I'm after here is, if I'm like jumping all over our discussion like this, we aren't having a good conversation, right? But this is what you're doing when you don't have a good communication strategy that is planned beforehand, where if someone is here and then showing an interest of that, they will get that. And then showing an interest of that, they will get that. But it's all within one sort of content funnel over time. And this is planned. You will be here within this funnel, but then you will be outside the funnel, and then inside, and then outside. So you will jump all over the place. And that is not a good conversation, or not a good presentation of your commercial communication, right? So it's very hard to speak to sales segments where there is room for interpretation. You need to have something more. So if we look at these head physicians, they're quite different. You can all agree on that, both in gender, age. One seems a little bit nerdy, the other seems a little bit sporty. One is, interested in outdoors, so on and so forth, right? Different perspectives on what is important, what is interesting, and how they then sort of extrapolate that to how they work with your product. So if you were to meet these 4 people across 4 different days, the conversations would most likely look a bit different, I bet. At least that's what I'm trying to convey here. But this also, of course, then is something that is very important in a digital channel. And remember this. Remember that in digital channels, we are so much easier to swap away for something that is better. If we're meeting each other face to face, it's hard to be that rude to sort of say, delete, right? We don't do that because it's kind of rude, and we're more polite and better raised than that. But in a digital channel, it's kind of easy to just press delete, unsubscribe, don't like this, away they go. So imagine that this is the doctor, right? This is your ICP or persona. It's this guy that was on the description of the ideal desired customer as well. And what we're after, same as what we're after in the physical meeting, we want to blow them away with valuable, relevant content in each physical interaction. right? But that is the same thing we want to do in the digital settings as well. So this means that I was talking about content funnels like this, and I have done videos on that I can link to if you want to, on how this is done. You can write something in the comments if you want to get a link to that, and I'll just send you that link straight away. But we really want to get to the point where they feel like, wow, this company really provides useful stuff. And that is only done, or not only, we can do it like a one-hit wonder thing. Like MC Hammer, you can touch this. But if that's the only thing you do, well, good for you, but yeah, it's much better to be relevant over time, because that means that you will then get like an ambassador for your communication at least, and hopefully also for your medicine. So in a digital channel, we must be able to be within a content funnel across time. And that means that the homework must be done. Who is actually going to receive our communication in that content funnel? And what are they interested in? And if we combine what they're interested in with what we want to say, then we get to the point of relevance, right? So if we just go and become a bit philosophical for a second here and talk about content, which is basically everything, right? If you look at it that way, content is everything in communication, and it's also a package to be delivered. And if we assume that this is your European or global headquarters where that package is created, and the package is then later delivered like this by a sales rep in the room, and not like this. If it's delivered by a sales rep in the room, it can be, as I said before, it can be adjusted to the facial expressions, the questions, the body language, the tonality, all the cues that you actually can get from the audience in the room. But if it's delivered like this, or on a printed postal mailing card, or in an email, or on your website, or on social media, or wherever, what's on the screen is what is being delivered. So that means that you need to do the homework. Okay? And we are always talking about getting back to the basics. I love this Michael Jordan quote: get the fundamentals down and the level of everything you do will rise. And if we imagine that how far in time do we need to go back? Like 100 years, 200 years? We had raw material, we had physical labor, then we had money, right? Raw material, physical labor, money. But now what we have is basically data and insights and knowledge and things up here or on the hard drives. And then we have thinking, us humans computing that data that gets to the money phase. But the thing is that quite often we don't take the time to actually think things through. Most difficult to say. But it's super crucial now with generative AI to get these fundamentals down. You really need to have that communication strategy in place. And the communication strategy can either be developed on a global level, regional level, or a local level. This is a project that you can do that won't be disruptive for your everyday work. It will improve the work you're doing from 3 to 6 maybe months from now and onward, because you won't change your customer segmentation that is in Viva. You get that from your global headquarters, right? You won't change anything you're basically doing, but what you are doing is that you are sort of taking a small step back, thinking about, all right, within our cautiously progressive customer segment, and Frederick talked about like a content funnel over time. What can we talk about to our cautiously progressive customer segment over time that is either on brand or above the brand, what can we talk about? And doing that cross-functionally in your office to get the fundamentals down. Because if you get those fundamentals down, everything you're doing after that will rise. Okay? And I started working on a framework like 2018, 19, and it is basically a model. We call it the ABC plus model. Doesn't really matter the name actually. It just like fit the way to describe this. But the content excellence model is something like this. I'm going to walk it through really quick. It's basically an audit, and then we're going to focus on the buyer, and then we're going to talk about the content strategy. And then you get to the plus, which is basically then content creation. And in a multi-channel marketing communication, like stepwise approach, you have 7 steps, and it's always so that the channel or the format is decided in step 5 or 6 of the 7 steps. So the content creation is actually something that comes much later than it tend to do, in all honesty. But then we have the audit, which is a full day workshop with the cross departmental guys, women, people in your organization, which is both like a training, and then it is builds the foundation for this communication strategy that we're talking about. And then we have the B, which is a half-day workshop with a smaller group, because we're now going to focus more on the persona, and we're going to focus more on the product and marrying these two together. So smaller group, half-day, and then it's the C, the content strategy, and this even smaller in terms of how many who needs to attend. But then with this second half-day, you will have a communication strategy that basically like lines up the ducts, and you can just shoot them down one by one in terms of filling this content funnel so that you're ensuring that you're relevant over time. So in total, 2 days, 1 full day with the A, the audit, and then half day with the B, the buyer persona, the buyer journey focus, and then half day for the content strategy. And then, of course, everything that comes after that will be much better in terms of being within the content funnel that. So I think like 20 companies or something like that have gone through this funnel, and it works every time. Everybody, by the way, says that, well, no, in the beginning, we don't think this will work. Our customer base is too complex, or our like product portfolio is too complex or too wide. This won't work for us. But then they take the decision to go for this anyway, and in every instance this have worked. So be curious, and then when you have a content funnel, when you have developed this communication that will be relevant over time and valuable over time, you have a much smaller, more narrower data set to look at, which makes it much easier to look at the data that you have. If you have a full market like this, and you look at this data, and you're here and you're here and you're here, if you're doing this, looking at that data is basically as easy as this. It doesn't really provide you that much information. What you want is a narrower set of data points where you have made the assumption that this will actually be relevant for our cautiously progressive customer segment that is described in a persona description, which we call Anna, for instance. So with that, you've done the homework, and now it's time to look at some AI use cases. And this will be the first one. And we are going to do this. First, I'm going to, because I need to also share sound. So with this, I'm going to start the video. And what we have here is basically, I was doing what I tend to do then, right? I follow quite a lot of different Twitter or X channels, YouTube channels, blogs, so on and so forth. But I stumbled upon this kind of cool generalist biomedical. Let's see if I can pause this at the right time. Okay. So this GIF I stumbled upon in this X feed, and what they had done was that they had taken specialized AI algorithms, like an AI algorithm that can interpret photos of skin like changes, or mammography images that could read clinical notes and reports, that could look at the genomics and interpret and analyze and interpret and provide some insights, lab tests, pathology, and then also question answering. They took all of these and then they put it into a generalist biomedical AI. And the one woman who sort of led this was a Google DeepMind senior researcher called Sheikh Aziz, right? But so I got curious and I looked at had they published any scientific articles, and they had. So they had they had published these two. And what I did then was that I downloaded the two PDFs and then I uploaded them into like ChatGPT's major competitor, which is Claude. And as you see, please read and comprehend the scientific article attached to this prompt. Provide a detailed summary of the key points, findings, and conclusion of the research described in this article. Make sure to explain any technical terms or jargon in plain language a layperson would understand. Discuss the implications of the research and how it contributes to the overall scientific field. Please cite direct quotes or data figures from the article to support analysis, so on and so forth, right? This prompt. So I got that summary back from Claude, and then I asked it to expand the answer so that I get more details from the research article. And then I did the same thing with the second PDF as well. See, I tend to click outside. So what I am striving to do here is basically taking scientific material to create HCP communication. And we have, what I'm moving towards is, with a knowledge base that is defined by these two PDFs, I prompt and I discuss with Claude to get to a video that describes these two scientific articles. And all of this is done in English. But the thing is that, I mean, medicine is complex. Doctors interpret many types of data, so on and so forth. When I have this script, I can then also translate it to Spanish or German or Danish or Finnish. I don't know about Finnish, by the way, but these are large language models, which means that they are very good at translation. And with a translated text, I will get the voiceover that you're about to hear in that language, which means that the language barrier becomes non-existing, basically. So this is a voiceover script that I then take into 11 Labs, and then I copy and paste this voiceover script, and then I paste it here to get this. Let's see if I can.
Medicine is complex. Doctors need to interpret many types of data like medical images, lab tests, and clinical notes to make diagnoses.
So I did that, and then I take that text into, and you can see here, into another tool where a paragraph or a sentence becomes a scene. So this is scene 2 and this is scene 3, and you get suggested B-roll clips that then, like showcase or describe what is being said, right? And this is the
Medicine is complex. Doctors need to interpret many types of data like medical images, lab tests, and clinical notes to make diagnoses and decide on treatments. This is difficult even for experts. But what if artificial intelligence could help? AI systems today are narrow. They can interpret one type of data for a single task. For example, read X-rays to detect lung disease, but they can't incorporate other relevant information like a patient's clinical history or research literature to improve their analysis.
And as you can see here, what I talked about, the specialized AI algorithms that they combine into one is in the story. So you get a fairly good story arc as well with this.
In this video, we'll cover exciting new research to develop more flexible generalist AI systems for medicine and explain why this could be transformative for the future of healthcare.
So that was one way. And if you imagine doing this with your persona in place, the video script that you get here can, of course, be tailored to that persona. So imagine that you have these 2 scientific articles that you want to talk to the cautiously progressive customer segment that you have. And you then have a good, not customer segmentation, segment description, but a good persona description, which gives a lot more information so that the AI who's writing the script doesn't have to, same as humans, doesn't have to interpret or guess, but it's very well defined what aspect of these 2 scientific articles that are of value for the cautiously progressive to fill out this content funnel over time. Imagine how you can do that when you are working with this. So you have a foundational knowledge base in terms of 2 PDFs that guides how you what will be included. And on top of that, you have your persona description. And on top of that, potentially you can have some other articles or something that you previously created to guide tonality and, so that this could be an add-on to what you previously created. Imagine that when you create the video script, then that then becomes the video like this. So if we look at the second use case, and this is going to be communication for the public, right? So in this, it will be a bit more technical, more tools, but what I want you to take from this is that what I do in this video is something that you can do within your field, and it is not super complicated. I think I spent 900 hours on AI since the beginning of last year, but it's not super complicated, and this will be super both search engine optimized. It will be based on big data scraped from Google so that you get what people are actually searching for as the knowledge foundation that I talked about. So let's look at this and see if I can take you through this as well. All right. So how to scan for breast cancer. Just an arbitrary topic. So you search, and then you have a Chrome extension called SEO Minion, I think. And then you have PAA, which stands for people also ask, or more to ask. So you see 5 levels, 2 minutes, but you can also have it run like 8 levels, 6 hours. And what you do, and I'll show you what happens, is that you do that, and then it expands these. And every time you expand these, new ones will emerge. So while that is scanning, you go to GPT-4, and you can then upload this Google scraping. People also ask how to scan for breast cancer. All that information that was gathered from this tab right here. And then a fairly advanced prompt to kickstart the discussion, and asking it basically, what I now want you to do is to find commonalities, latent semantic index keywords, regular keywords, so on and so forth, because what we're going to create is basically an article, and we need to understand, right, what are the top topics or keywords being asked for when it comes to how to scan for breast cancer. So here are some meaningful long tail search phrases based on the clustered questions. So 10 of them, 10 keywords, and then I use those as foundation for creating an article. But first, there's this thing called, or I call it, SEO universe. Basically, the universe that your product are in, even if you're selling bowling balls or tennis shoes. You have a cluster of search phrases in your SEO universe, and a tool like Keyword Finder could be one to find those. So this is basically, I wouldn't claim that this is the best way to do SEO today, but this is something that guides the discussion, internal discussion on a pharma company. Because if you have 3,800 searches online for breast cancer in MRI, there's a lot of people wondering about this that are somehow affected by this, right? Which means that the chance that they bring those questions also to their doctor or nurse or healthcare professional is larger than if they are words down here that have no searches. Sometimes we have internal semantics, internal language that guides what we produce, but doing a search like this could unveil that no one is actually searching on the phrases we are using internally. They are instead searching for breast cancer in MRI. We say something completely different. And if we are off track in that sense with our semantics, that must be adjusted, because we have that in our marketing material communication and we are not on track. I've actually had previous customers that have had that issue. So with this, we can do this. We just find good high volume search keywords, and then you can use Agility Writer or some other tool to generate blog articles. So the idea was for this to be global, so global wasn't an option. USA, get an idea of how to best scan for breast cancer, and you have a article title, primary audience, tone of voice, and then you get an outline for the article like this. You enter the keywords, could potentially be done the other way around, but with a few other settings, you can get you can get like it begins to write here, right? But then we really want to search engine optimize this text, because we're talking to the public. So in this case, we can actually search engine optimize the living shit out of this article. Sorry for the language, but using Surfer SEO, we take what was generated in terms of text from Agility Writer, putting it in here. We have put in the keywords that we want to use, and we get an SEO score, which here is 53 out of 100. We get an idea of how many words, how many headings, how many paragraphs, how many images should be in this article for it to rank on Google. Best way, scan breast cancer, should be 1 time in the article. Breast cancer should be between 22 and 53 times. Breast MRI, 28 to 50. So with this, you can then just adapt the article to fit the SEO needs of this topic. And with this, I mean, we have gone from scraping Google, people searching, to an SEO optimized article. And with this, we tailor to the audience of this question. Again, imagine that you do this and you put in your persona description in this, you will get even better results that you then optimize, search and optimize. Because if you create this for the public, the idea, I think, is for this article to answer some questions that you think they are asking your customer. So I have one last presentation of a use case, and here I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna show you one thing that I did just before this, and it's actually. Thank you all for joining us today. Let's see if I can do this, and I can put this in here. Let's see if you're seeing this. Where do I have Zoom? Okay, so I think you are seeing this and you're hearing this. Imagine that you have had a webinar like this, or you want to send something out to your customer. I have recorded a short video, then I uploaded it to a tool that then made it possible for me to create an avatar like this. And I want to end this presentation with this. So let's see what you think, right? Thank you all for joining us today for our webinar, Commercial Excellence in Pharma, AI and Tailored Customer Engagement. I hope you found the session informative and gained valuable insights that you can apply to your own strategies in the pharmaceutical industry. We covered a range of important topics, from the limitations of customer segmentation in supporting tailored digital engagement to the crucial differences between sales and marketing communication. We also delved into the role of semantics in digital transformation and explored the exact process used to generate impactful content marketing with AI. I trust that these insights have provided you with a fresh perspective on how to navigate the evolving pharma landscape and excel in your commercial efforts. By leveraging AI and tailoring your customer engagement strategies, you can stay ahead of the curve and dominate the market. If you're interested in learning more about these topics or have any questions, I encourage you to reach out to me. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, where I regularly share industry updates and insights. Alternatively, feel free to send me an email, and I'll be more than happy to discuss how these strategies can be applied to your specific situation. Once again, thank you for your participation and engagement throughout the webinar. I look forward to connecting with you further and helping you achieve commercial excellence in the pharmaceutical industry. I kind of thought that could be a cool way to end this. I thought of this idea before, and Per, who was attending this, he asked, "Are you ready?" And I was like, "Yes." And then I got this idea, and then because generating AI avatars for internal communication or using or collaborating rather with the KOL that are interested in doing work with you, interested in becoming an AI avatar for a broadcast or two, is not that hard. And if you're eager to learn more about this, we did this for another company where their colleagues, internal colleagues, presented as AI avatars what's been done here in the Nordics to the senior managers, management in the company, and they were blown away by how cool it was. And it was actually the first time I saw this video as well, together with you. So it's good, it's cool, and I think when we talked about like tailored customer engagement, and it's just when you have an AI avatar in place, it's just text that needs to be generated. And what I did was I took the knowledge base of the webinar description that are on the LinkedIn event, and I said, I want to have like a thank you for participating message to the audience. Please give me one, but with a bit more wording in my prompt. I got that text back, and then I used it with my AI avatar, and got the result that you saw. So talk about like being able to truly tailor communication to a specific audience, like at scale. And I mean, this is where we're heading. AI won't be worse than it is today. It will just become better and better. And I think, yeah, be curious, be on top of this. And if you want, just write in the comments that you want to get the list of YouTube channels that I can share with you, and I'll do that. And if you have any like other questions on the AI or pharma field, then don't hesitate to reach out to me, and we'll take a discussion from there. Okay. So with this, I'm going to end this now. Thank you for participating, and I hope to talk to you soon. Bye bye for now.